And do more as the minister. I wrote SAFA a letter where I said they should return my money. And SAFA asked for 21 days grace. I am just as angry. Because what more can I do? I asked them in a letter, bring back my money, the money of the state. Because I am responsible for it. They said they will act within 20. Because for me, there was no action. We were supposed to have had VAR. So people shouldn't look at me. I'm the minister that put it on the table.
I'm the minister that put it on the table. The pressure is mounting on the South African Football Association. This time, questions being asked in Parliament. The association was grilled over the Bafana Bafana visa fiasco, the money spent on VAR, and as you heard there from Minister Gayton McKenzie, he wants the money back. Things got even more awkward when SAFA President Danny Jordaan failed to appear. The CEO, Lydia Munyapao, faced tough questions over executive salaries, including what former Bafana Bafana coach Hugo Bruce was paid. So what's really going on the inside? Who should take responsibility? Does the organization have a leadership and governance problem? We're joined now by South African Football Association Cape Town President Bennett Bailey. A very good morning to you and thank you for your time this morning.
Hi, good morning.
SAFA is often caught offside, hey?
Yes, it looks like it. We've been on the wrong side yesterday for I don't know how many hours. We finished after 11 the evening.
Goodness me. All right, let's start with what's happening in Parliament. What's your view of what happened in Parliament as far as SAFA's representation is concerned? And why was Danny Jordaan not there to account?
I think Danny Jordaan need to speak for Danny Jordaan himself. I don't know. There was an apology. And I was not in the know as to the apology in itself. I've heard that in Parliament. If you followed, you must have picked up that I was not invited by the CEO or by the President, as he said that he will finalize the delegation. I was not part of that delegation in itself. So I was also surprised, like everybody, that he's not there. There's an apology for him, so he can answer for himself.
Sure. I mean, look, we don't want to play the man but the ball here, but it does matter when you've got the highest official in the organization not there to answer questions that members of parliament want to ask. It's not a good reflection on SAFA.
Yeah, I agree. And I must say that, I mean, in any situation, and that is how I lead. I lead SAFA Cape Town like that. If there's even difficult situations, just the other day, I led a delegation with the city of Cape Town, and it was a tough meeting. But that is what leaders must do. If you want to take the credit, you must also take the other side as well.
All right, let's talk about the clip I played before we started our conversation. Gayton McKenzie, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, saying he'd given SAFA 13 million rand. In fact, as I understand it, the sum is even more significant than that. And he says he wants the VAR money back.
Yes, we also heard yesterday in Parliament about the 21 days as a national executive member. Obviously, I cannot speak on behalf of SAFA. SAFA can speak on behalf of themselves. But like the public itself, I've also heard for the first time about the 21 days. And I can tell you, as an executive member and as the SAFA Cape Town president, I know that the national executive was briefed in May, where a preferred service provider was appointed. A committee was also appointed, led by the Finance Committee chair, to implement those things. And now we're about to enter September, and the league have started, the PSL league have started, and there's still no VAR. And I do agree and accept with the minister if he says, pay back the money. If the money has not been used, pay it back.
In fact, SAFA's own statement, which was released yesterday, saying that this VAR project, 20 million rand was received from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. They're saying, of course, they've been conducting evaluations of the technology. They've been speaking to service providers, and they haven't yet reached a contract with any of them. That might explain some of the delays, and they've asked for this extension because they want to finalize all of that. You don't accept that explanation?
That is the explanation from. I'm not sure who drafted that, but if that's on the letterhead of SAFA, then SAFA must respond to that. I cannot respond to that.
I mean, let's go back to the World Cup. When you watched the World Cup preparations that were disrupted because some players and some officials didn't have visas, who should have been held accountable for that own goal?
Yes, I think it was a calculated mistake there. And I think with 2 or 3 days to go, the final squad was announced. And I think that maybe about inexperience sake, that they waited until the last moment. And we all know to apply for a visa, it takes time. So you cannot wait for the final squad. If I was the manager, from the word go, I would have registered everybody and applied for a visa. And as they fall out, that would not have had an effect on the application for visa. That is what I would have done. But in all this conventional wisdom, the manager thought it fit to wait for the final squad.
Should heads have rolled around something like that?
I'm going to reserve my comment, but the record is clear in the emergency committee.
Why are you reserving your
opinion.
comment? Hold on, why are you reserving? You're a senior.
No,
Bennett, come on now.
Why
would you reserve your comment?
If you just go to the minute of the emergency committee, I've expressed a very strong opinion about what should have been done.
So express it now.
I'm not going to do that one. Like I said, I'm speaking as the SAFA Cape Town president, and I'm saying that when you go to that minute, you will find my position on it.
I guess, you're on the show. You've agreed to give us this interview.
Yeah.
There's no point if you're going to be reticent when you come on because you have a role to play within SAFA. You represent a significant stakeholder as far as the organization is concerned, and all of these things are being done essentially in your name. As members of SAFA, people won't necessarily note the difference between Bennett Bailey's view and what is being done through SAFA. So that's why we asked you to come on.
No, people know the difference. They know the difference. So I suggest you do that one, because I've expressed a very strong opinion what should have been done. But I think that it was just the inexperienceness of the person or the person and persons concerned, because remember, this is not a one-man show or a one-manager show. There's a whole office, there's a whole entourage with him. And remember, he didn't go there alone as a management team. I think it was just inexperienceness of the team.
Let's talk about Hugo Bruce and his salary. We are now understanding that he was earning as much as 1.4 million rand a month. There are questions, of course, about what his replacement will earn. Shouldn't that whole process be a lot more transparent to the public?
It will be very difficult. How do you determine in the public space someone's salary? It must be the people concerned who should do that. And I think that SAFA is handling that part right, and it should continue like it. But there should also be fairness. And when you make a decision on someone's salary, you should have all the information. And I want to emphasize all the information available to make a decision. And I think that SAFA must go back to the drawing board. I would strongly recommend that. Now that all the information is available, let's go back to the drawing board.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Bennett Bailey, the South African Football Association Cape Town president.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.